today we are at amazing JW Shanghai at Tomorrow Square with Danny.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
Yes.
And this is a beautiful view, by the way.
One of our key signatures of we are overlooking the city, overlooking the skyline of Shanghai.
That's beautiful.
I think, people traveling to Shanghai, they want to see the big skylines and the big everything. And obviously we are definitely one of the probably highlights here in Shanghai for that.
I absolutely agree. Now, I know you don't have a lot of time. Let's be German and get straight to the point.
Love that.
My first question would actually be a little bit about your hygiene practices. Could you please share with us a little bit more on how JW Marriott Shanghai at Tomorrow Square actually ensures the highest standards of hygiene and cleanliness?
Well, like almost every hotel, we do put a lot of emphasis on hygiene, on cleanliness, and of the comfort, right? Provide a comfortable environment, and to comfort these days, cleanliness, safety is just part of it for guests that are traveling abroad, that travel internationally, really do feel welcome and feel warmth and feel safe. So it's really plays an important role. And at JW Marriott, we always try to incorporate for guests being able to take care of their body, mind, and soul, if you wish, right? So having that comfort and the safety in the back, it's truly an important aspect of it. Then probably every hotel sort of has their ways. Every hotel, every property is very unique in its setup. So, but some of the fundamentals remain. So our team has developed a system called Task. So sort of and that's based on the 4 parts, let's say the training, the action, the supervision, and the keep up. And I explain a bit in more detail, but and the guidelines for that is sort of, we have an internal program in Marriott called the Power of Clean. And that's sort of a fundamental guideline to how we go about our housekeeping. Even though then there's a lot more to it than just the housekeeping part, right? So when we talk about the training aspect of it, that where we're really focusing on in terms of standard operating procedures, more or less for all the teams to really know really what is the standard, what is the process. And looking at sort of how we prioritize it from a guest point of view, what will be really the most important area. And we do have obviously many different we say standards for the various areas, but guest rooms is a key priority. That's sort of it's the private space of the guests, and I think it can really make or break your staying experience. Right, it's the one thing that I think for us is really absolutely crucial, that the guest rooms are in immaculate condition. So, we focus sort of on the high touch area. So we know, okay, what are the things that guests usually use the most in a room, whether it's touching the doorknobs or the mirrors or what's in the bathroom, and then how we go about dealing with the glassware, the chinaware. So everything is related, everything has a different process. And that we're really trying to follow really meticulously. We basically also have 5 different colored cloths.
Oh, really?
So they use, there's one that's used for the vanities, and there's one color that's used for the interior, and one for the surface, like the wooden and glass surface, and another one for, the personalized items that you use, right? So just to be sure that there's no cross-contamination, there's no anything that could potentially, affect your stay. So these things have proven to be very effective, and I think we have even updated over the years these protocols, where I think there was been a lot of issues in the past with cleanliness on even your little glassware in the room, etc. So now we don't even clean those things in the room anymore. We remove them completely. They be washed separately, sterilized with UV lights, everything, and then put back in the room. So it's not a lot of these cleanliness. They don't they're not done in the guest room anymore. So, and that has proven to be very successful. It eliminates a lot of, the error rate definitely goes down. So that's really helpful. Actionable items. Well, action is all about, for us, really the getting down to the nitty gritty and making sure the consistency is there. I mean, consistency really is key, right? And I think that's probably where we spend most time with,
Yes.
right? I think the action part is also the toughest part
I think so.
because people unfortunately don't work on hotel in the same position for 10, 20 years. So, and especially here in China, for example, you have a high turnover. So keeping up with the training, making sure that every employee is consistently on top of the game, and
To the standard.
it's bringing really out the awareness and the I mean, apart from the knowledge and above all else, but training the really awareness with our employees. That's really where we spend a lot of time with. And then whether we do some case studies or best practices that we share among a number of hotels, that's usually proven to be a very effective way of increasing the awareness of our employees, right? So best practice sharing, which we do as a brand and a company.
Yeah.
So if a hotel came up with something new, then they will just send it to everyone, and then everybody will see how it could best be adopted, right? Doing case studies if things go wrong.
Oh, yeah.
And in hotels, things always go wrong
Yeah.
in one way or the other. Luckily, they're always just minor little things, but even it's all about the details in the end. So we will then use these case studies and bring it into the trainings and into the daily really line up where we then discuss these. And that has all helped really to bring out the awareness, right? And then you have supervision. Well, nothing works without really.
Yes.
And
Quality control.
well, and it's a law, right? These hotels are big. We're running at high occupancy. So really spot checking, keeping up, it has proven to be really, really a fundamental aspect of our processes. So the way, for example, every room gets checked by a supervisor beforehand, right? So that's a really important aspect.
Every room before it's basically given to the guest.
Yes.
Wow.
Before it receives the clean status in the system that it can give to our customers, the supervisor or manager will have to inspect the room and then say it's clean. And these people are then even more trained to make sure they pick up really anything there is. Yeah, so there's a few layers of safety built into this whole process.
Sounds like a successful process and system.
Yeah, because it must be.
Yeah.
Because it is so important. If things go wrong at the breakfast or things go wrong at the check-in, everything is from a guest point of view, they know it's a busy enterprise, and especially frequent travelers, they know, and they're very understanding and usually very patient. But when things go wrong in the guest room, that's where the patient stops. And we fully understand, because this is your private space, right? That you book, that you pay for, and that we guarantee. So guest room really, I think, is where we spend most of our time with monitoring. And then again, you have your restaurants, right? Your food and beverage hygiene, food safety. Marriott just rolled out a huge food safety protocol for our hotels, where we work with different partners to ensure absolute compliance. So it's gotten a lot more comprehensive than it used to be. Even though I must say, even before COVID, whether you're running on a HACCP or anything else, hotels have always looked at this really, really carefully. But since COVID, obviously a lot of things are amplified and gotten more strict, and has got more aware of it, right? So even there on the food and beverage side, there's a lot more details that have now really being looked at, right, and audited on a regular basis. Pools is another important topic,
Yes.
right? We spoke about this last time, and I said, so we are testing our pool water every 2 hours.
Every 2 hours.
Yes,
Wow.
yes. That's on the outer pool and the inner pools every hour. And these data that we collect, whether it's the pH, the chlorine, or the volume of fresh water that's changing. So all of these is monitored and uploaded actually to a separate system. And then you have even local authorities will come and spot check and make sure that everything is in order. Most guests wouldn't know that, but actually the hotel needs to put a lot of effort on these, right, in these areas. And then the last part would be then the upkeep, the keeping up with everything.
Yeah.
That then really also entails all the maintenance of all these systems, the water filters, the air conditioning. It's not just the temperature of the air conditioning, right? We need to clean the ducts. We need to ensure there's a certain volume in terms of airflow, fresh air circulation, in order to really maintain a safe environment. So we'll measure humidity multiple times a day in certain areas, and then adjust our air conditioning or temperatures accordingly, so we can maintain the right humidity level, the right temperature level, to prevent the area from growing, or
Yeah.
this sort of area. And then there's a lot of mechanical equipment in the back of house that needs to be maintained and really thoroughly being inspected and tested, whether it's just the water testing or other things. So that's just some parts of what the hotel does. And I think it's gotten a more rigorous, the process, and really more
Yes.
detailed and more strict in the way we go about this. In the past decades, you always had different events, whether it's SARS or whether now was COVID. But all of these have really contributed to these being really dialed in more and more and more.
Yes.
And now, where technology comes in, obviously, it makes things also easier, but it also becomes more detailed,
Yeah.
right? In the way we assess our data.
That was a pretty good first overview. Thank you for that.
Yes, absolutely.
Let's move on
Yes.
to the impact of hygiene on the hotel reputation. So, in your point of view as an expert, how critical is actually the role of hygiene in shaping the reputation and also like the competitive edge of luxury hotels, like for example the JW Marriott Shanghai at Tomorrow Square in the hospitality industry?
Well, as many brands know, it takes a long time to build a reputation. And it goes very quickly to destroy it. And that's just the perfect way of doing it. And I think a lot of cases in the past have shown that. And whether it's on a cruise ship or whether it's on a hotel, whether it's food poisoning, whether it's Legionella in the water, that guests, being infected with certain bacteria. And with today's social media, probably hasn't been much of an issue 20, 30 years ago, before the big social media boom. But these days, whatever information comes, whatever happens, it goes out into the world immediately. And the damage of it, the fallout of it is catastrophic. So the hotels do know about the importance of it. Any sort of brand, I think, does. And that's why we really spend so much time and effort on it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Brands can destroy it so fast. Now, as we're both Germans based in Shanghai and China, and you've been in Asia and China for a very, very long time, right? I've been wondering a little bit, like me having trained my housemaid at home. Luckily in China, we have a housemaid here. It took a while because my German standard on how I got taught by family parents how to clean in a proper way was just very different than what many of my housemates brought in. So let's talk about the intercultural different standards or the culture difference. Like, how do you manage that?
So having worked in many different countries over the last 3 decades, I can tell you that we try to take this out of the picture. We're trying to remove the cultural differences when it comes to cleanliness or hygiene standard. These are areas that are solely science-based, and we follow the science-based approach on how we go about these protocols. And I must say that globally, we feel not of or from what I have experienced, not much cultural pushback really on any of these areas. The training becomes a little bit harder when you work in areas that might not have those sort of standards, right? Where your team sort of is comprised of people that will see this all a little bit easier, right? Or haven't got the awareness yet. But that's why we have our processes and trainings. I think
Yes.
once we get the people, our employees up to a certain awareness level, then usually the understanding and their attitude towards it also changes.
Last but not least, Danny, let's talk about future trends and innovations. Now, looking ahead in the future, what innovations or trends do you actually see playing a pivotal role in hotel hygiene practices and the guests' health and well-being? And also, like, how does your hotel basically plan to adapt or lead in these areas?
I mean, trends and innovation in an industry that's as old as ours, I believe a lot of the stuff people actually can't really see, but it is actually happening. And for us, as I said before, it's all a science-based approach. And the moment new researchers up, or the moment things are really new technologies coming along that will help us to improve. We do work with a lot of partners globally, even like Ecolab or others, that really help us to stay always be informed and keep up with the best data that's available. And I think a lot of areas that we're looking at, food processing is often underestimated. So I think there's a lot of innovation coming in the kitchens, be it cleaning, automation, kitchen equipment, sensors being installed. They will detect the surface of, high used areas, or whether it's temperatures, or whether the frequency of cleaning, or there's a lot that people or the industry, I think, is looking at. And there's a lot, the other areas where there's a lot higher frequency of food processing plants or anything else. I mean, they're usually at the forefront basically, but a lot of things will be eventually adapted in the hotels as well, as the technology gets more efficient and more, practical for our use cases. And I think data, it's the big thing these days, right? And AI will play a role in this too, on how we analyze and work with this data. I think data analytics, it will play a role in how we improve our efficiencies, and definitely be more effective in the way we work, we plan our resources, how it all will help. I think there's still some way to go for that, to really, for us to see the applications really of where they would be most beneficial. I think we kind of know where, but what it is exactly, I think a lot of companies still experimenting on these, but it will come.
Wow, thank you so much, Danny. Here we have a real case of a health and hygiene hero in Shanghai. Thank you for your time. So do you have any last words to our listeners?
Well, other than that, stay healthy and keep up with the hygiene, and do it like we do. One of our key focuses that I think, cleanliness is important, but doing it responsibly and sustainable, it's something that we really try to look for. There's a lot of, reducing waste is as much part of all of it than anything else. So we're trying to really also make efforts to do it responsibly. So with that, thank you for having me, and appreciate all of you to be welcome at the JW whenever you're in Shanghai.
Thank you so much, Danny. Happy
Appreciate it.
Friday from Shanghai.
Thank you. Bye-bye.